Compiling a definitive list of street gang members responsible for the highest number of murders is challenging due to the clandestine nature of gang activities and limited public records. However, based on available information, here are 6 individuals known for their involvement in multiple homicides. Number 6. The murderous life of Timothy Joseph McGee, the monster of Atwater Village. Timothy Joseph McGee, born on April 27, 1973, emerged as one of the most feared gang leaders in Los Angeles during the late 1990s and early 2000s. As a high-ranking member of the Toonerville Reefa 13 gang, McGee's reign of terror in the Atwater Village neighborhood earned him the moniker the Monster of Atwater Village. His criminal activities, characterized by a series of brutal murders and attempted killings, left an indelible mark on the city's history. McGee grew up in the gang-ridden neighborhoods of northeast Los Angeles. Of Scottish and Mexican descent, he joined the Toonerville Reefa 13 gang at a young age. The gang, also known as Toonerville Reefa, or TVR, has been active since the 1930s and is based in the Atwater Village area. McGee quickly rose through the ranks, becoming a prominent figure within the organization. Between 1997 and 2001, McGee was implicated in at least 12 homicides and multiple attempted murders. His victims included rival gang members, witnesses, and in some cases, individuals with no gang affiliation. Notably, in 2000, McGee was involved in the ambush shootings of 2 Los Angeles Police Department officers, an act that underscored his audacity and disregard for law enforcement. McGee's methods were particularly brutal. He often employed military-style tactics, organizing his gang members with precision and instilling a culture of violence. His approach to murder was described by a judge as treating killing as some kind of perverse sport, as if he was hunting human game. After a nationwide manhunt, McGee was captured in 2003 in Bullhead City, Arizona. At the time, he was one of the U.S. Marshals Service's 15 most wanted fugitives. In 2009, he was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. The jury found special circumstances, including multiple murders and murders committed for the benefit of a criminal street gang. Initially, the jury deadlocked on the penalty phase, but a retrial resulted in a death sentence. In April 2025, the California Supreme Court overturned McGee's convictions and death sentence. The court ruled that a juror who likely would have spared McGee from execution was wrongly dismissed during the original trial. This decision highlighted procedural errors in the trial process and underscored the complexities of the legal system in handling high-profile cases. Timothy McGee's criminal activities and subsequent legal proceedings have left a lasting impact on Los Angeles. His actions contributed to the city's efforts to combat gang violence and highlighted the challenges law enforcement faces in addressing organized crime. The overturning of his conviction serves as a reminder of the importance of due process and the ongoing scrutiny of the justice system. Number 5. The murderous life of Amon, the Don Dunn. Amon Dunn, infamously known as the Don, was one of Ireland's most feared and volatile gangland figures. Emerging from the gritty neighborhoods of Finglas, Cabra, and Ballymun in North Dublin, Dunn's criminal reign from the mid-2000s until his assassination in 2010 was marked by a ruthless consolidation of power, a trail of violence, and an eventual betrayal by his own associates. Dunn's ascent in the criminal underworld began under the mentorship of Martin Marlowe Hyland, a prominent drug lord in Dublin. Following Hyland's assassination in December 2006, Dunn swiftly filled the power vacuum, taking control of the gang's operations. He expanded the gang's influence across North Dublin, engaging in drug trafficking, armed robbery, extortion, and orchestrated killings. His leadership style was characterized by an unrelenting pursuit of dominance, often eliminating rivals and suspected informers to solidify his position. Under Dunn's command, the gang was linked to at least 17 murders between 2007 and 2010. These killings were not only strategic moves to remove competition, but also served as warnings to those who might oppose him. These acts of violence instilled fear throughout Dublin, with Dunn's gang enforcing a code of silence and retribution. As Dunn's notoriety grew, so did his paranoia. His unpredictable behavior and increasing violence drew unwanted attention from law enforcement and rival gangs. Major drug traffickers, including figures from the Kinahan cartel, viewed Dunn as a liability, fearing that his actions threatened the broader criminal enterprise. Internal dissent grew, and some of Dunn's closest associates conspired against him, aligning with external enemies to orchestrate his demise. On April 23, 2010, Dunn attended a friend's birthday party at the Fasaw House pub in Cabra. During the gathering, two masked gunmen entered the establishment. In a meticulously planned attack, they shot Dunn multiple times in the head and body, executing him in front of numerous witnesses, including his 17-year-old daughter. Despite the presence of his bodyguards and associates, no one intervened. The assassination was a clear message. Dunn's reign had ended, and the criminal underworld was undergoing a reshuffling of power. Dunn's death marked a significant turning point in Dublin's gangland dynamics. While his removal temporarily disrupted the power structure, it also led to further violence as factions vied for control. The Kinahan cartel, among others, sought to fill the void, leading to intensified feuds and bloodshed in the subsequent years. In the legal realm, Dunn's partner faced challenges in claiming a €250,000 life insurance policy, with the insurer arguing that Dunn had failed to disclose pertinent information about his criminal activities and lifestyle. Eamon the Don Dunn's life and death serve as a stark reminder of the volatile nature of organized crime. His story underscores the perils of unchecked ambition, the fragility of alliances built on fear, and the inevitable downfall that awaits those who rise through violence and treachery. Number 4. The murderous life of Andrew Alvarado, enforcer of the Norteño Murder Squad. Andrew Alvarado, a 34-year-old resident of Salinas, California, emerged as a central figure in the violent operations of the self-proclaimed Murder Squad, a faction within the Norteño Street Gang. Affiliated with the Nuestra Familia prison gang, this group orchestrated a series of brutal attacks between 2015 and 2018, aiming to eliminate rival gang members and assert dominance in the region. Alvarado's involvement in these operations highlighted the lethal tactics employed by the gang and the broader challenges posed by organized street violence. Operating under the Monterey County Regiment enterprise, the Murder Squad was notorious for its methodical approach to violence. Members conducted hunts, during which they targeted individuals perceived as rivals, often without concrete evidence of gang affiliation. These operations involved convoys of vehicles with designated roles such as shooters and spotters. Spotter vehicles would identify potential targets and relay their locations via conference calls to shooter vehicles, which would then execute the attacks with alarming precision. This militaristic strategy not only facilitated the gang's objectives, but also instilled fear within the community. In April 2025, Alvarado pleaded guilty in federal court to 1 count of racketeering conspiracy and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder in aid of racketeering. He admitted to participating in 6 such hunts between January and May 2017. In 3 instances, he acted as the shooter, resulting in the deaths of 3 individuals and the injury of a 4th. In the remaining operations, he served as a spotter, contributing to the deaths of 3 more victims and the wounding of 4 others. Notably, many of these victims were not confirmed gang members, underscoring the indiscriminate nature of the violence. The activities of the Murder Squad had a profound impact on Salinas and its residents. The gang's operations blurred the lines between targeted attacks and random violence, leading to a climate of fear and uncertainty. In some cases, innocent bystanders were caught in the crossfire, highlighting the reckless disregard for human life. The community's trust in safety and law enforcement was severely undermined, necessitating a concerted effort to restore order and confidence. Alvarado's guilty plea was part of a broader federal crackdown on the murder squad. He was indicted alongside multiple co-defendants in October 2020. By April 2025, 5 other members had also pleaded guilty to similar charges, receiving prison sentences ranging from 25 to 41 years. Alvarado's sentencing is scheduled for July 15, 2025, where he faces a potential life sentence. The dismantling of the murder squad was significantly aided by Operation REDRUM, a long-term investigation led by the Salinas Police Department, Homeland Security Investigations, and the FBI. This operation revealed the extent of the gang's activities and facilitated the prosecution of its members. Despite these successes, authorities continue to pursue additional suspects and address the root causes of gang violence in the region. Andrew Alvarado's involvement in the murder squad exemplifies the challenges posed by organized street gangs and their capacity for violence. His actions contributed to a series of tragic events that left a lasting scar on the Salinas community. The ongoing legal proceedings and law enforcement efforts serve as a testament to the commitment to justice and the restoration of peace in affected areas. Number 3. The Murderous Life of Alejandro Wizard, Omana, MS-13's ruthless enforcer. Alejandro Wizard Omana was a feared and brutal member of the MS-13 gang whose criminal career epitomized the violent ethos of one of the world's most notorious street gangs. Known for his ruthlessness and willingness to kill without hesitation, Omana played a key role in spreading MS-13's reign of terror throughout the United States, particularly in North Carolina and other parts of the East Coast. His crimes shocked communities and law enforcement alike and culminated in one of the most high-profile federal prosecutions of a gang member in U.S. history. MS-13, or Mara Salvatrucha, originated in Los Angeles during the 1980s and grew into a transnational criminal organization with thousands of members in both the U.S. and Central America. The gang is infamous for its use of extreme violence, often involving machetes, firearms, and public executions to assert dominance and eliminate rivals. Omana, who immigrated to the U.S. from El Salvador, became one of the gang's most prominent figures on the East Coast and embodied MS-13's brutal culture of fear and loyalty through violence. Omana's most infamous crime occurred on December 8, 2007, in Greensboro, North Carolina. That night, he entered the Las Jarochitas restaurant with a group of fellow gang members. Inside were 2 brothers, Ruben and Manuel Salinas, who reportedly had ties to a rival gang. Omana, armed with a semi-automatic pistol, approached the table and, after a brief exchange, opened fire. He shot both brothers multiple times in front of dozens of witnesses, including families and children. The murders were carried out with such cold precision that many observers said Omana showed no emotion whatsoever before or after pulling the trigger. Surveillance footage and eyewitness testimony quickly led law enforcement to identify Omana as the killer. He fled the state, but was apprehended in Texas shortly after. His arrest revealed even more about his deep involvement in the MS-13 hierarchy. Prosecutors presented evidence that Omana had been sent to North Carolina by MS-13 leaders to expand the gang's influence and enforce its rules with deadly authority. He was a known soldier for the gang, someone whose job it was to kill anyone who defied the gang's commands or threatened its territory. In court, federal prosecutors painted a harrowing picture of a man driven by a commitment to violence. During his 2010 trial, witnesses, many under federal protection, testified that Omana had boasted about numerous killings, some in El Salvador and others in the U.S. He often described the acts in graphic detail, showing no remorse. One key witness, a former MS-13 associate, revealed that Omana was considered a role model within the gang for his willingness to commit violence without hesitation. He was admired and feared, earning his nickname Wizard for his skill in eluding law enforcement and executing hits. The trial was one of the first federal cases in which prosecutors sought the death penalty against a member of MS-13. In 2010, Omana was found guilty of multiple federal charges, including 2 counts of murder in aid of racketeering, firearm violations, and conspiracy. He was sentenced to death, a rare outcome in federal gang prosecutions. However, after years of legal challenges and shifting federal policy on capital punishment, his sentence was commuted to life in prison without parole in 2023. Omana's case marked a turning point in the U.S. government's efforts to combat MS-13. It demonstrated a commitment to treating gang violence not just as a local law enforcement issue, but as a matter of national security. The trial also spotlighted the challenges of prosecuting transnational gangs. Witness intimidation, language barriers, and the ability of gang leaders to coordinate crimes across borders made the case especially complex. Today, Alejandro "Wizard" Omana remains incarcerated in a high-security federal prison. His story is often cited in law enforcement and legal circles as an example of the dangers posed by unchecked gang violence. He is also a symbol of the brutality of MS-13 and the deep challenges communities face when trying to dismantle violent street organizations. Ultimately, Omana's life serves as a grim warning. His legacy is not just the lives he destroyed, but the environment of fear and lawlessness he helped create. His rise and fall underscore the importance of coordinated efforts between federal, state, and international law enforcement agencies to combat violent gangs, and the need to offer communities better alternatives to the cycle of poverty and violence that fuels organizations like MS-13. Number 2. The murderous life of General Meatball. Arthur, enforcer of the Mets gang. General Meatball. Arthur emerged as one of the most feared enforcers during the violent reign of the Mets gang in New Orleans throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s. Operating under the leadership of Glenn Metz, the gang controlled significant portions of the city's drug trade, particularly in public housing complexes. Arthur's role as a primary hitman solidified the gang's dominance through a campaign of intimidation and lethal force. Founded by Glenn Metz and his brother Cordell, Jethro Metz, in 1985, the Metz gang quickly became a dominant force in New Orleans' narcotics scene. They distributed approximately 1,000 kilograms of cocaine between 1985 and 1992, maintaining their grip on the market through a combination of strategic alliances and ruthless violence. The gang's operations were marked by a willingness to eliminate any competition, often resorting to murder to resolve disputes and assert control. Arthur's reputation for violence was well known among both allies and adversaries. Law enforcement officials suspected him of being responsible for up to 70 homicides, a staggering figure that underscored his central role in the gang's enforcement arm. His methods were brutal and direct, often involving the use of automatic weapons to carry out hits in public spaces, sending a clear message to anyone who might challenge the Metz gang's authority. One of the most infamous incidents attributed to Arthur was the Earhart Expressway ambush in 1990, where he allegedly machine-gunned 3 individuals to death and wounded 2 others. In another case, he reportedly confronted a government witness in a housing project and shot the man in the legs with a machine gun, serving as a warning to others who might consider cooperating with authorities. Arthur was also believed to be the triggerman in the unsolved murder of rival drug dealer Sam Scully Clay, although definitive evidence linking him to the crime was never established. In 1992, Arthur was apprehended in Seattle, Washington, where he had been living under the radar and working as a dishwasher. His arrest marked the culmination of a multi-year effort by law enforcement to dismantle the Metz gang's operations. Following a comprehensive trial that included testimony from over 100 witnesses, Arthur was convicted on multiple counts, including murder and violent crimes in aid of racketeering. He was sentenced to life imprisonment and is currently serving his sentence at a federal facility. Genero Meatball. Arthur's life serves as a stark example of the extreme violence that characterized the crack cocaine epidemic in urban America during the late 20th century. His actions contributed to a climate of fear and instability in New Orleans, leaving a lasting impact on the city's history. The eventual downfall of the Metz gang, facilitated by the arrests and convictions of key figures like Arthur, marked a significant victory for law enforcement in their ongoing battle against organized crime. Number 1. The Murderous Life of Roy Deo, the Gambino crime family's most notorious killer. Roy Deo was one of the most feared and deadly figures in the history of organized crime in America. A high-ranking associate of the Gambino crime family, Deo gained infamy not for traditional mafia rackets like extortion or loan sharking, but for his unparalleled brutality and prolific record as a killer. His life story is a chilling testament to the darkest aspects of mafia violence, where murder became not just a means of enforcement, but a way of life. Born on September 7, 1940, in Brooklyn, New York, Roy Deo grew up in a working-class Italian-American family. He entered the world of organized crime in the 1960s, initially working in loan sharking and car theft. His intelligence and entrepreneurial drive quickly drew the attention of Gambino captain Nino Gaggi, who took Deo under his wing. By the early 1970s, Deo had assembled his own crew, a group of ruthless individuals who operated out of the Gemini Lounge in Canarsie, Brooklyn. This unassuming bar would become the site of one of the most notorious killing operations in mafia history. The Deo crew specialized in contract killings, internal mafia hits, and the elimination of perceived threats to the Gambino family. What set them apart, however, was the sheer volume and systematization of their murders. According to law enforcement estimates and testimonies from former crew members, the Deo crew may have been responsible for as many as 200 murders, with Deo himself directly involved in dozens. The method of killing became known as the Gemini method, named after their headquarters. Victims were lured to the Gemini Lounge, where they were shot in the head by a designated gunman. Almost immediately, another crew member would wrap a towel around the victim's head to control blood flow, while others would begin the process of body dismemberment in a back room. The parts were then bagged and disposed of in garbage dumpsters throughout Brooklyn, often never to be found again. The process was so efficient and routine that Deo's crew was likened to a slaughterhouse operation. Despite the shocking violence, Deo managed to maintain a double life. He was married with children and appeared to lead a respectable middle-class existence. He also maintained legitimate business interests, including an auto leasing company that doubled as a front for car theft and money laundering. His involvement in narcotics trafficking and pornography distribution further solidified his wealth and influence. Deo's killing spree wasn't limited to enemies of the Gambino family. He was known for preemptively killing individuals simply because he suspected they might cooperate with law enforcement or posed a potential threat. This paranoia, combined with his growing autonomy, began to alarm Gambino boss Paul Castellano. Although Castellano had initially valued Deo's earning power and effectiveness, he grew increasingly concerned about the attention Deo's violence could bring to the family. The FBI had also begun closing in on Deo by the early 1980s. An informant from within the crew, Dominic Montiglio, provided key information about the Gemini method and the crew's long list of victims. As indictments loomed, Castellano feared that Deo might turn informant if arrested. Consequently, he allegedly ordered DeMio's execution. In January 1983, Roy DeMio's bullet-riddled body was discovered in the trunk of his car, parked at a marina in Brooklyn. He had been missing for 10 days. While no one was officially charged with his murder, law enforcement and former mobsters have pointed to members of his own crew, likely acting on Castellano's orders, as his killers. DeMio's death marked the end of one of the most violent chapters in the history of the American Mafia. In the years that followed, several members of his crew were arrested and testified in court, offering chilling insights into the scope of DeMio's crimes. His life has since been the subject of books, documentaries, and even inspiration for fictional mob characters. What makes Roy DeMio's story so disturbing is not just the number of murders, but the clinical, almost industrial manner in which they were carried out. He represents a darker evolution in the Mafia, one that abandoned the code of honor in favor of cold efficiency and unchecked violence. His legacy, while infamous, remains a powerful example of how organized crime can descend into sheer depravity when driven by greed, paranoia, and power.